I'll recording in progress. Here we go. So, welcome everybody. I like you guys. You're very good to me, and it's always fun to. My favorite quote about artists is by a guy named Eric Gill, and he said, "An artist is not a different kind of person. Every person is a different kind of artist." And I think that's a really healthy way to hold the whole idea of being creative or not be creative. That's a silly kind of argument. But the other part that I really want to instill right now is I really want to maintain the sensibility of being an amateur. Because being an amateur, I mean, literally, it's amour, it's love. So someone who is an amateur is someone who does what they do for the love of it. And so I never want to lose that part of what I'm going to do. So I'm going to show you some pictures. You ready? Here we go. I'll go here. Right, hold this up here. Get rid of that. Let's move this up. Oh. Oh, make this bigger. Get that out of the way. I should be able. That's weird. I normally am able to just grab the screen, but it just goes back to the file. Because we don't want all these stuff in this on the peripheral. Let's all right, there we go. Okay, yeah, I don't get back there. That's so weird. Why did it do that? Okay. Okay, so welcome. There's a picture that says welcome. And the picture was taken in a nail salon in Denver. And I'm walking by and I see the WELC and then the COME on the hand. And the thing that I do when I go out and take pictures, here's the secret for taking pictures as far as everything I know about everything, which is when I go out and take pictures, I no longer look for pictures. I simply enjoy the act of looking. Now, not everything makes a good picture, but absolutely everything is worthy of appreciation. And if you can find yourself in a state of appreciation, pictures are everywhere. So I'm going to show you 5 pictures right away. And then I'm going to quickly, and then we're going to go back and look at them. It's behaving differently. Why would that be? I don't know. Let's go back. Oh, we don't want. Okay, well, see this picture? There's that picture. Now, there's this picture. And now this picture. And this picture. And this picture. And this picture. Now, we're going to go back. So, on this picture, it looks like a nice redwood forest, right? Well, because of the eye is blind to what the mind can't see. Your brain assembles a picture, and what you see is unique to you. In this picture, this tree in the foreground, it appears that, see where the cursor is, that is just another tree in the background. And it does, and it looks like that because it's kind of like that one. And as things go further away, they get smaller. But this part of the tree is part of this tree. This whole thing is one tree. And it's just the shadow from another tree falling on that tree that makes it look like that, which is kind of wild. Now, when you saw this, when we were going through, did you see that there was a horse in this picture? I more than 50% of more than 50% of the people, when they see this picture, do not see that there's a horse in that picture. And do you see the seahorse in the shadow? It's like a perfect one. And so this, I love optical illusions, and I often I don't see them. And like the horse one, I was there, I saw a horse, but when I was showing the picture, and then I said, and it said something about a horse, it says, what horse? But in this one, I liked that it's just a leaf that got kicked. So the stain is visible. So, but it looks like a drop shadow. So it looks like the leaf is above that. And in this picture, these picture, the lines look like they're zigzag. But if you pick any one of them, you can see that they're straight. Of course they're straight because they're the shadows of the blinds. But even when you know that, you can't make it stop doing that zigzag thing, because your brain counts on certain behaviors that you have to do in order to see. So it's weird that even knowing that it doesn't work, that you can't get around that. I love that that's the case. And in this one, how many of you thought that that was the moon? So it's not the moon. There was a full moon that night, but it was above our heads, shining down. That's why it's so illuminated on the ground. And I think the suggestion, everybody's seen, especially this group, has seen a telephoto shot of a moon over a scene, and that's like, a 400 millimeter or something. And so your brain has all these things in it, and then it sees things. So even the bullet holes or the dents add to the crater part. So you're getting cues that say that must be the case. And the line here, this is a 20-minute exposure. So the car going by, I turned it on when it first appeared. So it's really, see that thin part? That probably took the first 10, 15 minutes to get that far, as weird as that is. But I like playing with time and space, but I also like I really think this is great. That's a joke, because this is great. But there's something, it's one of my all-time favorite pictures. And it is because it's just so ordinary and so elegant and so perfect in and of itself. I just love everything about that. And I love that one too, but it's just this enthrallment with just everything looking a certain way, that life behaves a certain kind of way, and like a leaf falls apart in a certain way. So I like to think photographically that things behave a certain way. The wind behaves a certain way. The light behaves a certain way. And you're kind of attuned to it, almost like a psychological or physiological, like it's alive and they're doing it on purpose. So in this picture, I I saw this. This is up in Napa, and I saw it from the road, and I saw that. Oh, that's something I really like. That because all I could see was the backlit things, and I said, "Oh, that's really great." I didn't see the bees until I was right on top of it, and there were like hundreds of bees. Experientially, there were like hundreds of bees because they were just like coming and going and coming and going. But when I took the picture and I looked at it, there was only like two or three in the picture because they were moving in and out so much or being hidden that they weren't showing. So what I did was stand still and shot like 15 pictures. And then and it was real easy to clone them over because they were right after each other, and I just put them in the places where they were. So I know if this were competition, that would not be kosher. But what I was going for was, and in all the pictures, I'm not really going for what it looks like. I'm going for what it feels like. And it felt much more like this than just the straight picture of the flowers with two or three bees, because it was noisy. I mean, it was loud around me, and they were busy. I felt no danger from them, but they were everywhere. So, and I love when things are similar, that there's the synchronicity between, like this, I'm just going down and in a recycle bin, I see this magnolia leaf in a cardboard box, but it's got the lines, it's got the color, it's just like made for that. And I just love that I sometimes, no, I always have the feeling that pictures are actually asked me to take their picture. There's this cooperation between playing. This one I just took 2 days ago in a neighbor's yard, but it's in a, to me it looked like, two chicks and the mother, like 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 birds, and in this case I'm playing again. But I'm walking down the street, and from a distance in the car, I look and I see in a restaurant that the shadows are really long. So I go in, stand on a stool, and look down and do an aerial of this scene. And I asked the guy if I could do that. He says, and I showed him what I was taking a picture of, and he goes, "Oh yeah, I want to see that. I want to see that." So the really wonderful thing about these days is you can send people pictures of them and of things you've taken, and which is really different because I've been doing this a really long time, and it's a lot quicker than making prints and sending them. This is just, again, same thing in a restaurant. It's like, I need an aerial because this is just too beautiful. So I'm going to go do that. And this is in a parking lot in a grocery store. And looking at these, I see that they're really simple, aren't they? I mean, it's the subject matter is really, it's making the ordinary extraordinary, like thinking of things that they have. In my mythology, everything is really kind of sacred and cool, and just, it's really great to be alive on the planet. But that's because that is so pervasive, it's like, it's it would be overwhelming to walk around with that point of view. And as a child, I walked around with that point of view, and it was very uncomfortable. It was kind of being like overwhelmed. It was just too much information coming in. It was like being backed up against the wall. But I later learned that I was part of it, and that there was something behind me. And so I just started looking at things with more appreciation instead of trying to make sense of it. I'd let them make sense of itself. This kind of looks like a transformer, you know, a chain, a chair that turns into, maybe you didn't have a 10-year-old kid when you took this picture, but transformers were a big part of the deal. And again, watching the way things behave, in this case, the way shadows behave is just amazing. So walking around the same neighborhood 1,000 times, something's always different. And so sometimes like this, it's like, that's just insane that it looks like that. But when you're there, the value of an actual still photograph is, I think, really powerful as opposed to a movie, because when you're walking by the scene, you're kind of going somewhere. You're not, you can't pay attention to everything. But in a still photograph, you have the opportunity to stop it, to pause reality and take a better look at it. And walking around, I'm just looking at everything in some kind of gestalt way, and then just seeing what catches my eye, quite literally. And it's just that thing of everything is interesting in and of its is. Like in this case, I love that I got there at exactly the time when the shadows bent like that and looked like a heart. But the one that's inside that, where's my thing here? Oh, wrong here. The bike inside is doing exactly the same thing. But how is it possible that is possible? Photography was a way for me to play with the world, to play in the world, to have an occupation for for somebody like me. But what I discovered is that the world actually likes to play back. It really feels like, I mean, that's unreasonable that would happen. And so one of the things that I do with a lot is photography. When someone says, is that what it looked like? And the answer I can tell you every single time is no, not even close. This is a screen. It's not there's no peripheral, there's no grass behind it, there's no shadow behind it, and there's not really a lot of Photoshop. But because film, a camera just doesn't have the latitude that your eye does and your brain is. So I play on that limitation, and I'm pushing this thing so that you're the viewer is filling in the black, knowing that there's white there, but I want to catch people in between the two worlds. And when you do that, your brain will say, I need to make sense of this. So if you can catch them in that position of how do you make what's going on here, that's the thing that makes it a picture interesting. It's like you pay attention to something you haven't seen before, or you want to make it make sense. Like it's just a picket fence, but I have, and I didn't set out to make a whole series of picket fences, although that's exactly what I did. But they were just in my path of finding something else. When I get stopped a lot and they say, well, what are you taking a picture of? And it's like the next beautiful thing. And then sometimes I run through the camera. It's like, well, that was just down the street and this was over here and that was, and like, so, and when you start taking pictures of something, you get to understand them in a really kind of different way. Like if you take pictures of people, you get better at it. But this is like a personality. It's like, who is that guy? The one, the crick, and are they candles? Or is it a fence? So again, I'm trying to have it be two things simultaneously, so that you're playing. So visually, you're playing with the picture, and this is a picture in Richmond where they where they built you know, ships, warships during World War II, and all the windows are broken, and it's sunset. But it's like when you're just watching details, the fence, the little border is what caught my eye initially. But the other thing that really intrigues me about this picture is that this bird holds as much attention as the entire, as the frame, as the broken glass, as the sunset. And it's only because, and it's what, 1/10,000th of the picture, but it has a psychological weight. So one thing that uh, I'm not really big on the rule of thirds. and because that's a geometric thing. And one thing is there's a psychological visual weight to things, like the bird that you could say that's on the third, that may be so, but that the weight of that is way bigger than anything else that you could say about this picture. It's that freedom. It's breaking free. It's, you're telling a story, but when I want to give people the ammo to tell a story. Like this is like a Edward Hopper kind of picture. It's interesting enough and it's odd enough that and pretty enough that you want to just look at it a minute and say what's going on here, and you don't have, it's just that sense of this is different and the color is different. So you're like, okay, in this one, in my synchronicity, I love synchronicity things. I have a whole, that's the next book, is Synchronicity Cities. I have a Facebook page called Synchronicity City, and a YouTube channel with Synchronicity City. But in this one, so it's a guy fishing. Down here you can see him fishing, but he's in the shape of a fish. I mean, the reflection, the sparkles on the water is a fish, and the fisherman is making part of the fish. And as you can see, I'm really easily entertained. And in the synchronicities happen so often that I decided that I should do a series and do like from 1 to 100. And every picture had to have a number in it, from 1 to 100. And this one was at the Raphael. And like, where am I going to get 100? But the guy was putting up the movie. I think it's a Mel Brooks movie or something. And the guy's not old, but he's leaning down. So you have that symbol value of it. But partially it was just having the intention that I could do this trick. When I started this, it was 44 years ago. And now I have all of them. I have all the numbers and all the things in there. And it has to be a good picture as well. I like, this is that same theater. And so sometimes, just like when you're taking pictures of a mountain or something, sometimes it's right there and you get up and you take the picture. And sometimes you see, well, maybe I should move, or maybe I should wait for the deer to come by, but in this case, I really like that graphic of that bold red coming by, and it was like, so it was cold out. So I just said, okay, I'm just going to stay here until something red comes by. I didn't think it would be that tight. And I was waiting there for quite a while. And I had to like feign that I wasn't really looking, because people are really hypersensitive to pictures, not just because they don't want their picture, because they don't want to spoil the picture that you're about to take. They'll go around you, they'll apologize. And there's some real magic about being a photographer and a real license. But I'm standing there just waiting, and it's like, okay, give it up, let it, and then maybe it'll show up. And so I rarely wait for pictures this long, especially in the cold. But it's 5, maybe even 10 minutes went by. And it's like, okay, great, I give. Because sometimes I have it and sometimes I don't. but so, but out of just a door down, like 10 feet from where this all is happening, this guy comes out with this coffee out of the coffee shop, and I see the kid with the red on, and it's like, and I'm already set up, and it's like, and I'm like kind of just moving, and I just wait until it comes by, and I take the picture. So sometimes it's really like deliberate to figuring out where it is, and sometimes it's just like, you better take the picture and take it now. Like in this case, it's like angels amongst us, right? But she's right at the end of that thing, and so I got off a bus in San Francisco, and I said, I need to take a picture for Instagram, so it needs to be a square. And I walked down about half a block, and I see the mural, and it's like, okay, that's a nice mural, but that's not a photograph. It would just be a photograph of a nice mural. And then I see her like almost immediately, and then I'm just, and fortunately for me, it was with an old camera that didn't go off right away. So I did, when it finally went off, this is where the picture was taken, her in the absolute perfect place. On the numbers thing, it was built in like 98 or something, so that could have been 98 or 9 or 8. And this is another angel amongst us, just the shadow going back and spreading across because it's rounded. And so you're watching the way things behave. And the other thing to notice about your brain is that it loves repetition. So it will pay attention to things simply because they're repeating, like the 3 people going down, the 3 black outfits, but then the shadow. And it's like you're caught asking, is that him? The hat doesn't look like, he's not wearing a hat. So you're having the audience, the viewer is having to play with the image to make sense of it. And if it's playful, so much the better. Like in this case, I see them coming. This is on Lower Haight in San Francisco. And they're like really moving, but they're like at the end of the block in front of me. And I look across because I'm gonna like wait until they come by, but there's nothing there of any interest. But I look back, I'd already taken this picture without anybody in it. And then I ran back to where that would be and waited for them. And then I took the picture. So sometimes it's really quick, and sometimes it's it's sometimes I miss it completely, and sometimes it's so cool I have people do it over. but that's the other license, because I've taken thousands of pictures of people and stopped them and asked them, and it's usually not it's not as elaborate as this, and have them do something, although I've done that. But mostly it's just getting to talk to the people. It's like strange that you can walk up to a complete stranger and say, you mind if I stare at you for a while? And I'm going to look through this lens that's going to be only your head. And you're not, and it's like a it's a weird proposal, but there's a certain magic, and everybody's in on the magic. Everybody's in on the language, like especially these days. And you can send them the picture immediately, or when you fix it later. So in this case, I did the exact same thing. This is also in San Francisco. I know this lingerie shop is right, pretty close to where I am, but I'm waiting for somebody to come by, but I'm waiting for something that would go with it. So he's in a black outfit. So that's really all that I'm looking for. So I run up, I'm across the street, and with an 8200, I take a picture. And just as I put the thing up, he turns around and looks back, which is perfect because that's what the mannequins do. But what he's looking at is, who knows? I don't know. And that's again, we're getting the audience to play to what's going on. Now, in this case, another great picture. I'm walking in the other direction, and I see her coming, and she's really moving quickly also. And I have my camera in my hand, and there's no way of taking the picture or turning around. I just drop the camera to my side, turn it, lift up a little, and push the button. And this is the full frame. But again, why are you always in the right place at the right time? Because there's always something happening that is the right time. And like in this case, this is in San Rafael, where I used to live. I live in Vallejo now. But normally I just go out and I see what I see, and I see what I look for. But this time I said, I want to take a picture of the human condition, and I wanted to say something really deeply about the human condition, which is something I never do. And so I went out, and there was this demonstration happening in the mall just in the plaza. And it was just amazing that came into being. And again, but you're waiting for, often when I'm talking about these things, it sounds like I'm calculating this thing, and there's too much to think about when you're taking a picture, especially like this. So you have to do it by feel. So I'm paying attention to them and what they're doing, but I'm paying attention to them, and I'm paying attention to the dress and the way he pulled his head back, and I'm dancing with them. And I'd love to see a picture of me taking pictures sometimes. It must be a real scream. Now, another part that I do is in my I love everything thing is I go to a lot of museums. I go to museums all the time. And I am struck by how many times things the people are attracted to, or they manifest in front of. I mean, who wears orange gold pants, and she's wearing gold, and the gold frame, and the blue shirt, and the blue sky, and he's got the stairway to heaven down here, and the clouds and the clouds. I mean, it just goes on forever. And the blue over here, and the blue jeans. That's just amazing to me. And in this one, this is at the De Young. So this guy is just looking at this painting, and it's like, holy cow. So I go up to him and show him the picture, and he said, God, I had no idea. That's just exactly like it. It is exactly like it. That was very fun. Now this one is just really absurd. This is in the LA County Museum. So, uh, so she's wearing the right outfit. She's got the red. She's got I mean, even that thing in the back of her head looks like a beret or something. And the colors and the gold, she's got a gold phone to go with the gold frame, and the shoes and the purse. I mean, if you got if you staged it, it would look fake. It almost looks fake because it's so perfect. And to make matters worse or make matters better, it's a Picasso thing that is woman in a green dress is what it's called. So you got all those things going on, and it's just like, how in the world is what is it? What alchemy is happening to make this happen? And I think it's just because not only do people like to be appreciated, the world itself likes to be appreciated. And when it feels like it's being appreciated, it the world knows what you like because the world knows everything. So it's kind of like going, Jerry will really flip out when I show him this one. So it's like me trying to catch the thing that is being set up for my benefit. This is at the Legion of Honor. This is no longer there because that where you see those pillars, there's now bricks between them, and they put a new like an addition there. But this was taken like in 1976 when I didn't live here and I was living in Colorado when I stopped here. But something always happens when I come out of a museum. It's just uncanny. But to have the thinker there and have him thinking there and all the thinking that went on to make the bridge or make the pillars, it's I love that. And here's
Jerry, would you move your cursor, please, out of the image?
oh, thank you.
Sure.
This guy. So this is a portrait of the artist. So it's like just you're putting these oddball things together, but I mean, it's like I mean, doesn't that look like a modern art thing? And there he is, all proud. It's like it's there's this Minor White picture. I think it made a really deep impression on me, and it was just bird poop on a rock, kind of spilling over, but it was so elegant, you had no idea what it was, and then you put it together. And this is kind of like that, but I think humor is transformational. It takes you down a path, and then you have to switch gears. You have to transform what you're looking at into something else, or if you're hearing it, like a joke is like a termite goes into a bar and says, "Where's the bartender?" And everybody goes, "Well, where's the rest of the joke?" And then you go, "Okay, let me tell you again." Termite walks into a bar and says, "Where is the bartender?" And just like with life, if you explain a joke, it's just not as funny, is it? So anyway, so I here again, I waited for this. I'd liked this. This is over in Emeryville. There's this guy who was commissioned to do this on all the electrical boxes, and he chose the format for like the bicycle guy down here, that really graphic, and then he would just make up things. But it was like, okay, that's nice, but what else can I put in? What else will happen in the picture to make that more of a picture? And so I waited for for something yellow to come by, and it did. It's or in this one, so I'm driving in Arizona and I'm going 90 miles an hour in the middle of the night, and I see the Twin Arrows exit, and it's like Twin Arrows, Twin Arrows, Twin Arrows, and we're passing these arrow signs. It's like, oh, okay, because getting these numbers is really a trick. So I go. It's one of those places where there's no turnaround for like 20 miles, except for those places that say, do not turn around here, except for those places. But it's the middle of the night, and so I went across there and came back. So it took me probably, I don't know, 20 minutes to get back there so that I could take this picture, so that I could have a 2 or a 9 or a 1 and have the 2 arrows and the twin arrows in the same picture and the number. So sometimes they're just obvious, but other times they're like this one. This is in San Francisco, and I just saw this the other day. It was so great, and it's in the. But to see the pair and the pair and the RE is the lights out on the neon. And then I have a 1905, so I could use the 19 or 90 or 5 or whatever for the series. But I didn't live in San Francisco then. This was taken in the early 90s, and I was just visiting here. And my friend was driving around and says, look, and we're at the light, and it's time to go. And I says, go around the block. So he drives around. But when I finally get in position, the guy who owns the shop walks over, bends over down here in the bottom, and looks at a shoe. I mean, it's, again, how in the world would that happen? Not only all this other stuff, but it's just that why did he do that right then? And I love taking pictures of everything. The bridge certainly should be a subject. I have hundreds of it. But when you've taken thousands of pictures of something, you want to have something different. So I'm gyrating and I'm doing things that make it different. I'm getting real low to take the picture of this. And here's a nighttime shot, but it's like you left your heart in San Francisco. So I really like that heart. You guys think I'm crazy or a genius? I wouldn't claim either one. So this last series here is all at the Fort Point, underneath the bridge. I'm assuming most of you have been there, but if you haven't been there, it's just a spectacular place. And upstairs, and now when you look at this picture, look at the floor, and you can see that if you look at it a certain way, it looks like it's waving up and down. It's like a ribbon. It's going up and down, just like you would light a ribbon. But it's only because of the way it behaves. It's behaving in exactly the same way that a wave would, that a ribbon would. And I can't say that I saw that then because I was too busy getting this thing lined up. But when I finally saw that, it was like, oh, that's really fantastic. And the masonry there is just spectacular. I love everything about this place, and I loved playing with the light that way. And then again, you're making it interesting. And I'm playing with these 2 kids. I was with them, and it's like, okay, so you get right here. Now you go down there so you can be right on top of his head. And kids, even adults will play with you. But so it was. And knowing that he would be a silhouette, and knowing that he would be in the light, you're thinking photographically. If you can think photographically, it's a joy. And here's the ranger, and he's answering questions for people, and it's like, well, can we take your picture? Because I was with a whole class doing this. And says, oh, sure. So he was great. We did all these different things, and it was, so you can play with people because they want to play. Everybody's just like, I don't know, in my mind, everybody's like a millimeter away from ecstasy at all times. Now, sometimes that millimeter is made out of titanium and sometimes it's made out of thin air. But in there, right past that point, and sometimes, they're embarrassed or something, and then like you. But the other thing, like when you're taking portraits, it doesn't matter if they're embarrassed, because one thing when you're like looking at someone, you're looking through the lens and you're taking just their portrait, no one can hold any feeling perpetually. So even if they're really embarrassed, they'll let go. And then you only need a fraction of a second. But when you know that that's going to happen, you're patient. This is that same guy, like a year later, and he was wearing a beard. And I'm demonstrating to people how you expose for what, and then you let the rest of it get underexposed. So basically, a silhouette or a lot of it, I'm trying to teach them how to use manual and not just do everything automatic, because if you did this automatic, you'd see all this stuff. And it would be a nice picture of a guy, but it wouldn't be so different that you pay attention to it. And that's what the whole thing you're trying to do with the picture is get them to stop and look at it. You're not, yeah. So, and again, you wanted to do an interesting picture of the bridge. So on top of Fort Point, there's this view directly underneath it, and it's just spectacular. But one thing to do when you're doing something really straight on, like looking down a whole down where there's a bunch of pillars, or you either get it dead on, or you get off a little bit, get off like considerably, not just a little off. If you're just a little off, your head goes back and forth and it doesn't know where to land. So now this is kind of what it's all about, is that sensibility that you had as a child of you're figuring it out and going, why is my hand glowing? Why is it all red? You're just paying attention to the way the world behaves, and it's interesting, and you haven't habituated it all the way into normalcy. Now, I'm not saying you have to walk around in childlike bliss all the time, but I'm saying that it's good to have the option and not just, oh, I'm an adult now, I don't do that kind of thing. It's just more fun. Oh, and like I saw these guys do it. I did have these guys do it over again. This is at the De Young, and I took the picture, and I go show them, and I say, "You guys are fantastic. Look at this." And they go, "Oh, that is cool." I says, "Well, I'll send you one. You want to do it over? Let's do it right." And they're just out playing. They're going to the museum, so they're getting to be art. So it's I understand that I'm a little more goofy than normal, and the people so it's not hard for me to approach people. But the option is always there for anybody. And I've taken taking classes out, and we just go through this rigmarole of walking up to complete strangers and having an adventure. And rarely does someone say no. And then they'll apologize and say, "No, I really got to get somewhere. I wish I could, but no." And I've done this thousands of times. Again, you're just looking at the shadows, but you're looking how they're, because the building goes off at an angle, the shadows are not lined up. So you're watching how the shadows behave against the building. And or putting the two different things together. The great thing you can do with a camera that your eye can't do is you can get the whole thing in focus if you use the right aperture. Your f32 or whatever, but you can get, like when you're looking at the world, your eye is so efficient, it appears that everything is always in focus. But when you look at your thumb in front of you and you look beyond it, you see that everything's out of focus. Or you look out there and then you look at your thumb and you see it snap into focus. It's the miracle is really rampant, but again, it's so pervasive that it's almost invisible. And again, you're just showing people or showing yourself and you're waiting for the kid to interact. You've already established the fact that there's a reflection going on there. So it's and in the surface of the ground, the floor. But it's like, okay, well, when is it all going to come together? And you just watch the world behaving, and you can see it coming often. Or not like this. This is in that same in the tower also at the De Young. And so the background, so this is just a really kind of straight shot. This is exactly what it looked like. But the resonance, the connection between that and the outside is just, it's just uncanny. It's just absurd. And this is again in the De Young. For some reason now they put a wall in front of that window, which is really a pity. I really loved that window because of the way it did this trick. Because it was really bright and it was always darker in the inside. So the silhouettes were always really pronounced. But again, when you're shooting silhouettes, a profile is much more valuable than straight on, because straight on, you're just a blob. So the gesture means everything when you're doing a portrait or a silhouette. And this is also at the De Young, where back in the back in the sculpture garden, there's a place called the Terrell Sky Space. I don't know if you've ever seen that. I went to the De Young for years and I didn't even know it was there. But it is just spectacular. And so again, we're just playing with the fact that the camera can't see this. This is so pronounced that your eye can't see that. And it's like, now watch people come in, they're not visible, now they're visible. And you just take them through that activity of something is going on visually all the time. And if you're just being entertained. And you get them all to be entertained. Or you come across a situation like that and you take advantage of it. So in this case, I show them how to, I have them do a long exposure and a short exposure and show them in manual how that difference. So here they are a high speed and then it goes, and then I'll do it really long and then we'll have a long one. And then just inside there's all these really marvelous spaces before you get to it. And then inside the space itself, there's a big circle in the top that is just, and his purpose, the artist's purpose is to do this enormous edifice, this big altar, kind of, to point out the fact that there is a sky. But the sky is so ubiquitous and so always there that there's no really any reason to pay attention to it. So all of this stuff that he created to that was just so that you'd see the blue and you'd see the clouds going by and you'd notice that that's a thing. So I guess that's kind of what I want to do in my photography is point out that things are things. A photographer's job is really weird. You're hired to show people what things look like. And that could be in the factory or wherever. And they don't, it's like, they're always amazed that it looks like that. This is that hole. Now, one thing to just as a trick land is the starburst. The way to get that is you put it exactly on the edge of the frame, a bright light or the sun, and then it will burn. But you have to do it like really precisely because otherwise it gets completely blown out. Or, if you went up just an inch, this whole thing would be white and it'd be nothing. And it wouldn't do that bleed over into the dark. So it's kind of a tricky thing, but once you do it, you can do it everywhere. Like in this case.
Please
So
move your mouse out of the image.
would I
Please
move my
move your
mouse?
mouse out of
Oh, mouse. I'm doing the wrong mouse. I got two computers open. I'm sorry.
Your cursor.
Okay, that's good. So there's the starburst, and again, it just adds something to the picture when you put a little something extra into it. So when you're taking pictures, you see like in this case, I had them do this. They're those same two kids that were playing at the Fort Point, and they were kind of doing it already, and it was like slow down, and then it's like no, slow way down, because I wanted to get his head in where the light was, and I wanted to get the starburst up here. So it's okay. You're making art. So you're not trying to take a picture of what something looks like. You're trying to take a picture of what it feels like. Hey, it's 7:02. I went on. So we'll leave it right there. So I'll answer questions for forever if you like.
Thank you very much, Jerry. That was terrific. I was hoping you would tell people a little bit about your involvement with the Digital Photography Academy.
Okay, well, I also work for every month I give a Digital Photo Academy is what it's called. You can find it on the web. And like the 24th of next month, I'll be doing something in Chinatown. But almost every month I'm doing a class there, and they do classes at 21 different cities across the country. And I love doing that, because I love seeing people's like epiphany, like, hey, I can do this. Oh, look. And in Chinatown, it's I had a private class, and she wanted to take pictures of people. And that was her thing. She wanted to do some documentary kind of street photography. And we're walking right past the Dragon Gate, and she goes, well, I don't see anything. I don't see nothing. It's like, okay, well, all right. So I said, okay, we're going to stop right here. Now, just look across the street, and we're going to wait for maybe a minute or two. And this guy comes up, he's got all this stuff, and he's got his coffee, and okay, there's a picture. And then it's like, oh, see, he's got on a blue coat. This woman's got a blue coat. Wait till the woman in the blue coat comes into the picture. And within 5 minutes, we'd taken 10 pictures, and it was like, and she's like, okay. But it's really everywhere. And the digital photo, I mean, I'd love for you to come play. And you can just do that. Just go to Digital Photo Academy in San Francisco. It opens to that page, all the different cities, and just hit San Francisco, and sign up. And also, if you're on Facebook, I'm Jerry Downs, just Jerry Downs, and I look like this. And I'm also on Instagram, and I also have a YouTube channel, and I have the one that's particularly interesting was the synchronicity one, where I tell the full story of the synchronicity and how that all came to be. And it's just called Synchronicity City, because city is the last part of synchronicity. And so it's Synchronicity City. And if you just type that in when you got to YouTube, you'd find it, and you'd find me. And shooting the videos is a very different thing than shooting stills, I've discovered, because even when you're anticipating differently, but you're also anticipating, like, you need a lead in, you need the picture, and you need an out. It's a very different way of stuff that was completely, I didn't need to pay attention to before. It was just a part of the getting of the still picture. But when I had to get the still picture and what went on before and after it, actually improved my still picture taking, because I was, again, anytime I'm paying attention in a different way, it contributes to just my appreciation for looking at things. Any
Thank
other
you.
questions? Comments?
Do you use different cameras? Or do
Uh,
you have just an old trusty favorite?
I primarily use a Nikon 8 D8 880, yeah, and on the camera I have a 28 to 300 lens, which is like really heavy but really fantastic. And I got this before that for 3 years. I only used a normal lens. So when I finally went to that zoom lens, it was like going to heaven. But only shooting with the normal lens was also really great, because there was always a way to get it. Sometimes you had to move, or sometimes there was another way of looking at it, or just something else to take a picture of. But I enjoyed very much not using it, not having or not having to change lenses, because sometime in my life I've had every imaginable lens. But now I primarily use that one. And a lot of what I do when I go out and take pictures with these groups is, not everybody has a camera, they have a phone. And there's an awful lot you can use. Phones are just amazing. I'm all for phones. So it's like, I do not poo-poo phones at all. And when somebody says, doesn't it drive you crazy that everybody's a photographer these days? And so, no, I think it's fantastic. I think it's like this whole language and a way of communicating that is really just in its infancy now. It's people are and everybody does it. So when I start, and every time I do a class, I say, okay, well, show me a good picture. And to a person, they take out the phone and go like this, and then there it is. And it's like, you're right. Now let's see why it's a good picture. And the main thing we're going to do here today is just increase your odds of getting that good picture. Because you're right, the camera will take the picture. There's no doubt about that. But there's things that you can do, just like with negative space and a million other things, that if you just heard about them, that you can start to look for them and start to see them. And then when you see, and you have this incredible advantage of, you can see the picture you just took. Now, all of you are old enough to know that this is not like getting a slide and sending it off to get it done and see it in 3 days. It's very different. But it's interesting how rarely people use that as a device for, did I get the picture? And as opposed to when they get home. And it's like, oh, well, I take a million of them, and every once in a while it's a good one. Well, that's good, but slow down and take the picture, get excited, take the picture, and then see what you could do to make it even better. And just like pretend it's like a print, and you're looking at it and going, oh, I wish that thing wasn't in there, or that piece of litter, or that other thing, or I should have waited until you did. You can do things over often. And if not, the other part is let it go. The holding on to, I didn't get the picture, is really, you're doing yourself a disservice. I was doing a class once, and this woman described this picture. It sounded like an Elliott Erwitt picture, where this little kid's on the back of a bicycle. She's in France, and the father's there, and he's got a beret, and he's got a long loaf of bread, and the kid's looking back at her, and she was so enthralled. And then the guy passed the car, and he says, I couldn't believe it. It was just so perfect. I thought about that the rest of the time I was in France. And then when I went to Belgium, I kept thinking about that little kid. And then when we went to Indonesia, I kept thinking about it. It's like, why? Let it go. Because you're using a precious space that can be used for looking at your world that you're in. You're not going to get that kid back, but you're not going to be alert enough to catch the equivalent of that kid if you're back there in France. You let it go and be in the present and walk around appreciating it right there and then.
Jerry,
Wonderful.
Yes.
I'd like to ask you, how did you develop your sense of this? And did it just come to you, or did you sort of see it and it grew from there? And can you teach people, or, I mean, we would all like to be able to, photograph like that. Is it just being more aware and feeling it?
Well, like I said earlier, I was kind of always this way. Now that's, and you'd say that's really wonderful, but as, really as a child, it was really kind of terrifying. And I was really, I could think conceptually, and I had the thing I heard a lot was, you are so smart. Why are you so dumb? I heard that 1,000 times. And when I couldn't learn to read, I was old. I was seventh grade. I was 7 when I went to first grade because I was born in November. And all the other kids were younger than me, and they'd all been to preschool and kindergarten, and I wasn't. I was the 5th of 11 kids who lived out in the country and went to the Catholic school in the city, which was just terrifying to go from walking around cornfields to all of a sudden be sitting in this row with all these strangers in a city. I felt so bad for people who lived in cities. Like, look at they live right next to each other. They can look into each other's window. This is creepy. I just broke my heart. And so it took a very long time to get over that. And I wrote a book, which you can get on my website. It's sold out. It's called Why You Were Born, and this tells you the whole story. And just go to my website, jerrydowns.com. Real simple, jerrydowns.com. And up at the top, it says free book. There's 2 free books, and you can just download them. You can download them or look at them online. But that will,
with your work, I love it.
well, so there's another expression that is that you don't ask a fish about water, which means a fish couldn't tell you anything. So when you ask that question, it's like, well, how do you do that trick? Or it's like, I walk out the door. And I also have been thinking about how I do this thing a lot. I mean, I've written 2 books about it and taken millions, because since COVID and during COVID, I went through all my pictures and I threw away 80,000 slides, and I threw away 800,000 files. And I got it down to like 80,000 images that I draw from and that I kind of have access to. And so I see all these themes, like the white picket fences. I've got a million of them, but they're just in my neighborhood. They're just things that I ran across. So there's not like that's what I went out to do. That's just, they are just so beautiful in the way they do that optical illusion thing they do, that they're just enthralling. But then as soon as I take that picture, I'm off to looking for the next enthralling thing. It's uh, it's easy being me and it's really hard being me. Because I got that creative thing is really easy. That turning it into a living is an entire different kettle of fish. But I've come to the conclusion that art is life itself is the real art. Photography is just an access point to talk about life. It's just a really great way to talk about life. It's a really great way to talk about experience and being here and what it, not just what it looks like, but what it feels like. So, but the important part is the life part. So that part about uh, learning to make a living at it and getting better, but I think that's an integral part of the art, and it's an important part. Like when I was a kid, should I go on like this, or are you all there? Okay, so like when I was a kid, I couldn't learn to read because I was the dumb kid in the class. But my I so they gave me the busy work, like one of those little piece of paper that has A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and you're supposed to draw a picture. Well, for A, I drew after because I wanted to show that I wasn't an idiot. I was smart. I wasn't just going to draw a stupid apple. So I drew a table with this guy, and it was kind of a Picasso type thing. So he's looking down there, and he's looking over here, and there's a book, and it's falling off the table, and it's on the table. And I did filigree around the A, and it was just beautiful. And they sent it back to me, and there was words on it, big F, and there were words, and I couldn't read the words. And it said, "Do not come back to school until you bring your parents," which was like a really big deal because they got 11 kids. They don't want to be taking time to go do this thing. So they come, and they're up at the front of the room going on about what should do with this kid. And they pull me up and says, "Well, we've decided that you can no longer draw because you're a really good drawer, and we want to take something that you really value. We're going to take that away from you until you learn how to read." Well, this was a big deal. This is the only thing that I really got any strokes for at all. And so I kind of had to go underground to do it. And I would draw in the chicken house. And I had this really, really wonderful realization, which was the chickens didn't care. And not being able to show it to somebody was like, it was not complete. The artwork was not complete because it wasn't expressed. I got to do it, but it wasn't, they didn't care, just looked like chicken scratchings to them. But so the other part about all that stuff is I don't resent that happened. In the same way of letting go of the picture, I had to let go of all that stuff about school. I mean, when I was doing interviews for the books, the interviewer would always step in and say, "Well, schools are terrible, blah, blah." It's like, no, in my mythology, I wanted that to happen. I wanted that to happen so I could understand how people could give up that wonder and understanding that they had as a child. It just baffled me. And I got to be a kid a lot longer than most kids because I was surrounded by kids and they just let me alone because I was nice. But that also meant that they didn't teach me the ABCs. But when I went to school, it was just like a nightmare. It was just completely overwhelming and terrifying. So it took a long time to get out of that. So I'm happy I'm over here on the other side, not completely over, but I rather like being here. I didn't always like being here, but now I really like being here, and I like showing the world to people just to make it visible to them. That's my job. My job is to make the world visible. and to have a point of view about it that it's okay to be here. That's what I'm up to.
Thank you. That's really quite wonderful.
Thank you.
That answered your question.
Yeah.
Good. I could go on forever. I could write a book. You should read the book. It's free.
Yeah, look forward to downloading it.
Good. I think you'll get a kick out of it, even if you only look at the pictures. Yeah, that's great. Well, again, you, by doing this, I got to show it to somebody instead of the chickens. So you're helping me to do what I want to do by inviting me to do this. So thank you for that.
I'd like to mention too that I met Jerry through Facebook. I'm not sure if we had a mutual friend or if it was through the Digital Photo Academy or where, but I recommend anybody who uses Facebook to friend him on Facebook. You'll see his wonderful images,
We have a
hot off the press.
yes, and people are invited to play. I mean, people post their own. We're talking about this kind of stuff that we're talking about. So magic and optical illusions and being nice to each other. There's no politics. It's a break from all that. And I really like that there's this community, and it's a lot. There's like 20,000 people at the Facebook, and it's really wonderful that people come there and have a voice to talk this kind of screwy way, and have it be normal.
But
So,
Jerry,
yes,
I just had a comment. I was looking up Digital Photo Academy online, and there are several lines for it, but none of them are opening up. So I don't know if there's something with your web host or something that you might want to investigate. Just
I'll find out. I was just there not too long ago.
yeah.
But yeah, it's just digitalphotoacademy.com. Yeah.
I was trying to get on the San Francisco one, and either the website is down or something is going on with it.
Okay, well, I'll report back to the humans that take care of such things. Thank you for letting me know. I appreciate that. We'll give it a shot again.
I just got in.
You just opened it?
Digitalacademy.org.
Digitalphotoacademy.org. Oh, it's .org. Okay.
Yeah,
Org.
it's
Okay.
.org, not .com.
What's the matter with them? Okay, well, I'm sorry about that. Well, good. And yeah, when you go there, the first thing that usually shows up is all the different cities, and then there's a bunch of other things on there.
Anyway, it's a very entertaining presentation and beautiful photographs. Thank you so much.
I'd like to say the image that you posted today on Digital Photo Academy of the kayaker over the reflection of the buildings was really quite wonderful.
Wasn't that great?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I love that thing where there's two different worlds and you're paying attention to it for that very reason.
Exactly.
Where you're asking a question, you get to start a story in your brain, like, what in the world, where, what, but you're also looking at that kayak going through that reflection, and there's a building in the reflection, and it's like a tall building because there's like a million little windows. But you're looking at how the ripples of the kayak are making that wobble off of the building.
Yes.
It's really quite spectacular.
Yeah.
So yeah, I like featuring other photographers. I like I just wrote this the other day for something, and it was, what I'm doing is just a really elaborate version of, look, mommy, look. it's like, isn't this cool? Look at that. And that's what I'm up to. I'm just saying, look at that. Isn't that interesting? Isn't that something? I love your backgrounds. I probably should figure out how to do that. But
just the three little dots in the upper right hand corner of your image in the gallery view. or whenever you see your image.
And it says more, or it says,
It says choose virtual background. Just click those three little dots in the upper right-hand corner.
oh, there, where it says
And
more,
choose
okay.
virtual background. And then you have to have a place where you can find the images that you want to put.
Okay, cool. Well, great. That
Hmm.
will be interesting.
Yes.
I love this. I love it.
Sort of like a reverse eclipse.
Yeah.
Doesn't it? Yeah. Exactly.
It's the diamond ring.
Did any of you go to that last eclipse?
Yeah, I went
You
to
did?
Texas,
Oh, good
but it
for
was
you.
totally cloud covered. I mean, I
Oh,
got a
really?
tiny glimpse, and
Oh.
we certainly felt the feeling of it getting cold and dark when the sun was fully eclipsed, but couldn't see any of
Oh,
the
honey.
corona or any of the diamond ring or any of those special effects.
Mm.
But it was still a powerful experience.
Oh, well, that's a pity. Still, yeah, no matter what, I went to the previous one in Oregon.